The following program is presented by the HTM Podcast Network.
Another episode of Turnbuckle Talk in partnership with thechairshot.com, presented by the Hitting the Marks Podcast Network and in association with IndiePW.com. Turnbuckle Talk is sponsored by collarandelbowbrand.com, where you get 10% off when using promo code JKPodcast. Turnbuckle Talk is also partnered with Phoenix at FNXFit.com, where you get 15% off all your health supplements simply by using promo code TBTalkPod. Follow the show on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter by searching at TBTalkPod. Listen on Podbean, iTunes, Google Podcasts, Spotify, and everywhere you catch your favorite programs. And now, pro wrestling fanatics, are you ready? Here are your hosts, Big Joe and Karl Karufel.
All right, guys, Big Joe and Karl Karufel back here on Turnbuckle Talk. How's it been going this last time? It's been a while since I talked to you, Karl. What's been going on up there in Northern Ontario and Canada?
Oh, man, things have been crazy. But we continue on. We do what we got to do, and that's about it. I mean, no point in crying over spilled milk, I guess.
Well, after we recorded last week's episode of Turnbuckle Talk here, I came up with the idea for this week's episode rather quickly. I was just thinking to myself, I was like, you know what? It's been a while since we talked to both Ryan and Mike here on Turnbuckle Talk. I think we've only done it one other time where we've had both of these guys on here, so I figured we were long overdue to have both of these gentlemen on the podcast. So please welcome back to Turnbuckle Talk, Mr. Ryan K. Boman and Mr. Michael Melchor. Welcome back, sirs.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for having us back. It's rare that I even get to do this with my schedule, but today kind of worked out, and I'm kind of glad it did. So rock on.
So it's been a while since things have changed. You know, we've the site that you guys came up with the grill position. You know that is it's a thing of the past now. It's owned by somebody else. So I just wanted to start off by just kind of touching base to see what you guys have been up to. So I figured, we'll start with you, Mike. And what have you been up to since things have closed up shop over at thegrillposition.com?
I've been busier than a cat trying to cover crap on asphalt. I'm as well as the things I normally do, helping with the TV side of it and the website, I became the social media manager, period, full stop, for OVW. Yes. So about 90 to 95, somewhere in there, % of what you see on OVW social media feeds, Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, all three of them, are mine. The graphics, the copy, the you name it, all of that. Nice. I am responsible for that now. So there is that. Of course, I still, there is a full-time job on top of doing that, that I also do. I have, wife and family that always keep. Anybody who has a wife and family knows how busy they always keep you. And because I'm stupid and I'm not busy enough, tonight, the class I had mentioned probably before, the people had heard us go. I am 3 weeks deep into a Master's of Interdisciplinary Studies degree at Indiana University. So because I don't have enough to do, I'm taking that on as well.
So with the main undertaking with OVW here, what's it like being on a first name basis and working with Mr. Al Snow? That's the first thing I gotta get out there right off the hop.
Weird.
Right.
Still weird.
Right. Got to pinch yourself once in a while, right?
Yeah, I'd say about every other week I do, I think. It's odd that especially when I see old footage and there he is, and it's just like, oh my God, I know this dude now. Like, I know this dude.
Man.
How did this happen? Like, how the hell did this happen? I think rather than pinch myself or anything like that, and, certainly grateful for everything that happens, but I think that's the one thing I ask myself the most often. How did this happen? How the hell did I get here?
How
Like,
did
my
how
life is
did it kind of happen, Mike? Tell us a little bit of the story. How did you end up working with Al Snow and OVW? How did it happen?
Well, I'll give you the short version because I've done this a couple times. I was doing a story for thegorillaposition.com about OVW opening up not just a wrestling school, but the first and so far only accredited trade school for pro wrestling on the planet. So I was doing a story about that, and I had talked to someone there, Gilbert Corsi, I was interviewing at the time, who we had talked about. I had shadowed when I was doing my bachelor's. I had shadowed with him before. So during the interview, he had remembered that, and we talked about it a bit, and we got to talking about some of the experience I have, some of the things I came with out of that. And he had asked me and invited me to come out one Tuesday and see if he asked me if I wanted to help them, if I wanted to help OVW put, TV together and, help shoot with the camera and get some other stuff done. And my response to him was also in the form of a question, and that was, is a pig's butt pork? Of course I would love to help come out there. So yeah, he invited me to come down, and then just, starting with working on the camera and that, just slowly but surely, I've been working with them since then.
And how's it been going lately? I mean, it's since starting fresh to now, have you gotten into the rhythm of things? I'm sure COVID-19 has kind of thrown a lot of loopholes and issues into things here, but how's it been going lately with putting out the weekly shows?
Yeah, it did.
Right.
We spent about 5 months just pretty much having to do I guess highlight shows or historical shows, clip shows, whatever you want to call them, but basically telling people about some of the things we've done, some of the stars that have come through, some of the things that have happened, and just, getting them familiar with OVW as a whole, because there were no shows. There was no going out and putting out weekly stories in front of a crowd. That was not happening. It couldn't happen at that point. And of course, the timing being what it was, just brilliant, because we spent 5 months doing that. 1 week into that 5-month period was when we debuted on a national platform on YTA Network.
Yeah.
So our first national show was, hi, we can't really run a wrestling show, so let's look at the history of our championship. And we had to spend 5 months kind of doing similar stuff until I think about a month ago, we were finally able to, over Indiana, to be able to start running shows again with a limited crowd, all of the, correct protocols in place and everything else. And we just got word less than a week ago that we're going to be able to go back home to Davis Arena. Not as people hear this coming out, it will be starting, well, I'm not going to play around with the math and when the show releases. Just starting September 15th, we'll be back home at the Davis Arena in Louisville.
Wow.
Being able to do actual shows there. So, but yeah, having to plan around all of that, and in the middle of that, having to do the social media, which, now is a little easier being in a rhythm because we've got this show coming up. We've got this show coming up. We can promote this. We can schedule. Okay, we'll promote this one on Tuesday. We'll look at that one next Wednesday. We'll look at, the schedule is easier to do rather than, okay, well, what are we going to talk about online if we don't have anything going on? That was fun.
Now, getting onto the national level there, still isn't too bad considering that you had to do clip shows per se when it comes to showing people what OVW is, because I guess that's really a good way for people to learn the history of the company before September 15th, when full shows really start back up again. So whoever's idea that was, kudos to them, because I think that that's a very, very good way for them to represent and get the brand out there to people and show the history behind it, as opposed to just kind of throwing out another pro wrestling product that people are not going to understand where things have come from. So,
well, that would be the gentleman who we had talked about before that I am somehow weirdly on a first name basis with. That was Al's idea. That we had talked about it, and that was basically the best way to go. We've got the opportunity we've got a whole bunch of eyes on us that have never really seen us before, that haven't had the chance to. Let's kind of get them as caught up as we can, up to this point where we are now, so that when we do get back up and running, and it was and actually it was a month ago, July 28th, that we were able to start running shows again. So we're about a month into being back proper. But yeah, before all that, we had talked about it, but it was pretty much Al's idea that let's catch everybody up. Let's let people find out who they're going to be watching before they start watching them, since whether we like it or not, we have the opportunity to do it.
And that's a fantastic way to do that, especially considering I do believe if you take a look at YouTube and you look up OVW on YouTube, there's over 1,000, over 1,500, I believe, different episodes that are out there for people to see and to watch. So to kind of take a collaboration of over 1,500 episodes that have been done so far is a good way to kind of break it down. And then again, that's a good, easy way for people to go back and go, wow, that was a really great match that I saw, and I heard that it was on OVW episode whatever. Let me go search that up, right? So,
as a matter of fact, this week, as this comes out, Friday, September 11th on YTA, will be episode number 1100.
Yep.
So
That's
we
huge.
hit that
That's
milestone this week.
Yep.
Wow.
So this timing works out pretty well in that regard. But yeah, episode number 1100 will be Friday. There is only one wrestling show on the planet that has run longer than we have. And I'm pretty sure we all know what show that is. If you tune into USA on Monday nights, it's not hard to guess.
If you do,
but they are the only show that has run longer than us.
And it's just been fantastic having another wrestling promotion to watch again where we actually have some fans. I've been pretty vocal about that through this pandemic, that I've not been particularly fond of the empty arena shows, and it's nice to see their fans in person reacting to the professional wrestling, and then the wrestlers getting to work off of the fans as well, because it's both things go hand in hand there. So it's just been fantastic to see. We also have Mr. Ryan K. Boman here with us. What have you been up to since the grill position has shut down, Ryan? Because you've been busy too.
It's not actually been shut down. We sold it to a different party. We made the decision. And I think at the end of the day, like Mike and I, after 3 years, we had gotten so involved with other things, other projects, that we just kind of, I don't want to say burned out, because that's a bad way to say it, but it was just sort of like we made that decision of, let's sell and let's go on, because he, as he said, he's been working for Al for over a year now. Mm-hmm. And it was just sort of like, we've got so many other things going on in our lives, like we both have families. I wanted to take something I thought would be more profitable to me. So basically what I've been doing now is I've been working for Sports Key to Wrestling. I'm doing podcasting. As a matter of fact, I just did one with Al not too long ago.
Yep.
And I'm writing columns, and it kind of got to the point that where he and I think it's sort of like, when you raise your kids, you finally have to send them off to college. And that's sort of what it came down to. It was like, we both made, my best friend and I made a decision that, maybe it's time to move on and do other things. Now,
having said that, do you guys miss it at all?
Oh yeah, I miss it. I mean, I miss it. It's hard not to, because when you create something, and it's so funny. I can remember in 2017, I was up at 3:00 in the morning, and that's where the concept for the website came up with. And I thought, tomorrow I'm calling Melchor.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we're going to do this. And as soon as he was on board, we created it. We went through all the hardships because it's not hard. It's not easy to, create a website and do the things that you have to do. And every single day, literally waking up every morning and knowing that you need to post this, you have to do this. But at the same time, I feel like it's almost a relief at this point for both of us. Like we kind of got to the point where it was like, yeah, I miss it, but it's like I said, it's like sending your kids off to college at some point. You have to move on and you have to do other things in your life. And I feel like right now, especially with everything Michael's got going on with OVW, it was the right decision and the right time.
For sure. And again, for those who don't kind of know the story of how Karl and I became involved with you guys over at the grill position, literally I was on public city transit on my phone, looking up people to do an interview with on Turnbuckle Talk. And I saw this guy named Ryan K. Boman. I saw your old profile picture, it had the handsome looking dude on the front. And I was like, hey, this guy looks like you'd be an interesting guest on Turnbuckle Talk. And then all this happened.
Well, I thank you for calling me handsome, but I wouldn't go that far.
You still look good in that picture.
If you'd come across my picture instead, that probably wouldn't have happened. You're an interesting looking enough person. Me, I'm like I'm like the middle-aged overweight fat kid. He'd have been like, no, not interested. Moving.
No, you're Tony Schiavone Jr. is who you are. Let's just be honest.
Oh shit, that's right.
Here we go. Yeah,
that's right.
Does that still happen, Mike?
Honestly,
where you give
and the thing that I think I take out of it, is that the friendships that came out of it.
Yeah.
Whatever, Mike and I got into it. We wanted to make a profit. We wanted to, and just do something really different. And the biggest thing that came out of it was all the friendships, the people that we got to know.
Absolutely.
And that'll go on forever. Regardless if we own the GorillaPosition.com anymore, the friendships that came out of it will go on forever.
Yeah, and they continue to this day. A lot of times if I'm having an issue, I'll hit up Ryan, and he'll talk me off the ledge if I'm having a bit of a bad day or something. And these friendships have continued on since the site has been sold off, and it's been fantastic. And from the grill position as well. We became friends with Jargo and Rick, and all the good stuff that's happened there. And as you heard in the beginning of the episode, Rick does our intro now. So it's fantastic.
Right,
Joe, don't get all emotional on me now. Don't get all emotional.
It's a little hard. Now. It's a little hard not to, because it's there's so much positive that's come out of this for Karl and myself and you guys. We've all been successful in part to this website that you guys have created. It's not something that's insignificant.
It definitely isn't. And I mean, for Big Joe there, with a tear in his eye, he is making sure that everybody knows what an influence that the Gorilla Position was. And that for everyone that's out there, if you're doing podcasting, if you're doing video casting like we're doing now, whatever you're doing, make sure that you're reaching out to these people and trying to find these different connections to build not only your brand, but to help them build their brand and to really build friendships out of everything. Because whether you like it or not, you find these people and then you're just all connected. I was talking with a former show guest, Tony Kazina, the other night. I'm out working and he messages me and he's like, hey brother, how's it going? And we chatted up for a bit, and maybe something special coming up soon in regards to something that Tony Kazina has kind of helped us out with. But this was just another one of those things. And at the end of everything, I said, you know what, like, I totally get it. I understand. We're all one big family in this crazy world of professional wrestling. And all he could say was, you got that right, brother. And I mean, that's what it is, right? So never give up on what you're doing, and always go for it, no matter what. If it's a no, it's a no. But when it becomes a yes, you get great stuff like this.
Someone once told me, and they said pro wrestling is the most incestuous business there is, and they didn't mean that in a sexual way. It means once you're part of that family, you're part of that family. and it just stays that way.
Oh yeah.
You know, like I have wrestlers that call me like out of the blue, like people I haven't talked to in a year or 2 years or 3 years. You know, it's and they'll call, and like you pick up right where you left off, and that's one of the beauties of pro wrestling. That's one of the things we should celebrate about pro wrestling. You know, everybody talks about they love this company, they love WWE, they love AEW, they love, you know, Ring of Honor, whatever, Impact, whatever. You know what? At the end of the day, we're all one big family.
You know, absolutely true. You know, and when we were first starting doing off this podcast, it was a lot of us reaching out to wrestlers, to promotions and whatnot. Now, these people are reaching out to us for stuff. You know, Tony reaching out to us, Rick reaching out to us. You know, hey, you guys need a real intro. I'll come on and do this for you. Sponsorship opportunities coming to us. I mean, just it's been interesting going from having to reach out to all these people to now they're coming to us. And it's a little freaky sometimes when I open up Facebook and I see a message or open up an email, and I go, "Wow, okay," you know.
Yeah, it definitely is. And I mean, that's another little great aspect of everything that's happened. I mean, all the partnerships that we've come into, not only with the GorillaPosition.com, but, you know, with the Chair Shot now, with Hitting the Marks podcast network as well, with Collar and Elbow brand, 10% off when you use promo code JK Podcast. And then Phoenix as well at Phoenix Fit, fnxfit.com. I mean, there as well, you need supplements. You go there and you take a look at what they've got, whether it's protein, super greens, whether it's pre-workout, post-workout. They got everything there for you as well. And you want save some money on that as well, get a hold of me. Send me a message over our messenger on Facebook. I'll get you a promo code and get you like 15% off. So yeah, like these are all just little things that have all come about that are just fantastic, you know. And Phoenix, they reached out to us, which was for me, I was mind blown. I'm like, wow, like a fitness company has reached out to us because they saw our product, heard what we did, and they want to be part of our little world as well. So I mean, that's really cool. It's very cool.
By the way, that was one of the smoothest transitions from topic to ad read.
I was just about to say
that I've heard in a little while. That was smooth, man. That was impressive. You know, for myself too. I mean, Jesus. I mean, I've even there's a wrestler, I believe he wrestles in Winnipeg, Mentalo. He was having issues with his computer and reached out to me because he knew that I do a podcast, and obviously I'm a little bit tech savvy, and you know his hard drive was destroyed, and asked me if I had any tips for him. I mean, just little stuff like that is just kind of surreal, and I just have to keep pinching myself that this stuff is real. That you know that we've gotten to meet Jake Roberts, we've gotten to meet so many people in person. Chase Owens, I mean, Danny Duggan, I mean, just to name a few. It's pretty wild to have gone from being nobodies to now we kind of rub elbows with these people that are known people.
Karl, I just want to say back.
Sorry,
I'm sorry. I was going to say, Karl, that was a smooth segue, my friend. When I did radio, that's what we call a smooth segue.
Yeah.
I know what I'm doing. I know what. Hey, all of those radio shows that are out there, if you're listening to this, I'm available. Call me. Call me.
Me too. Yes. To get into a little bit of a topic here before we we're likely due for a break here shortly.
Hang on. Before you get there.
Go ahead, Mike.
I am not available, by the way. I've got enough shit to do. Thank you. Sorry. Go on.
No worries. I believe
you're not supposed to cuss, man.
Well, here in Canada, I mean, even on CBC, you can say shit. So as long as you get the occasional one there, it's not that big of a deal.
I haven't dropped one F-bomb so far.
You've done very well, Ryan. You've done very well.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Let's touch on a little bit of a general kind of topic here. This wasn't originally on the run, but Karl said this to me the other day, and I think this is a good topic that we can spend a little bit of time talking about here. Recently on, I believe it was Chris, I think it was on Van Vliet's podcast. He had Mr. Jake Roberts on, who I had mentioned earlier, and he was talking about something here. I'll read the quote, and then we'll kind of get into the topic here. The quote is, "The talent today, they don't know how to get over. Wrestling today is all for the visual. In my day, it wasn't. It was through the heart. It was emotional. I wanted to hook you up emotionally. The difference is the visual lasts a split second, and then the brain wants something fresh. But emotionally, if I hook you one time, I get you for the rest of your life." Let's go around the table and get an opinion kind of on that. I'm going to let you go first, Mr. Melchor.
I kind of think if I'm picking up what Jake's putting down right.
Yep.
I think this kind of ties into something I've been thinking about lately between, having the opportunity to work with Al on a weekly basis. And some of the most interesting times are like after the shows when you've got, it's like you walk up on a discussion, like some deep discussion about pro wrestling where it's Al Snow on one side, it's Brian Pillman Jr. on the other, and I'm standing in between them just listening because that's all I have to do. Like for one, I'm not going to be able to offer a whole lot to that. I've piped in here once or twice on some things, but mainly that's just to sit back and listen and learn kind of moment. So in dealing with a lot of that lately, I've been thinking, and if I'm understanding what Jake's saying correctly, to me, it kind of ties in with what I've been feeling is the difference between putting on pro wrestling for a pro wrestling audience or putting on pro wrestling for a wider general audience. It's like,
good point.
Pro wrestling has become, and people will understand, who were into things like whether it's the Umbrella Academy or the Marvel Cinematic Universe or Star Wars. Pro wrestling has basically become a fandom. It is a thing that a group of people are into, that they get into, that they understand, that they love, but maybe not everybody else does. And I think what Jake was talking about is, the visual wrestlers who go for, I've actually heard the term, listening to Busted Open Radio once in a while, I've heard Bubba Ray call it the Twitter pop, where, independent guys will put up a GIF of like some radical move they've done. And it's like that, oh my God moment, seeing it is cool. But, could be because they want to get that, so they want to get that reaction on social media. They want the likes, they want the retweets, which is great. It's getting their name out there. It's, from a marketing standpoint, which is what I teach at the Al Snow Wrestling Academy and School for Sports Entertainment, the only accredited trade school on the planet. Cheap plug. That's one thing you want to do, right? You want your name out there. You want your name on people's mouths and their minds and their lips. But what Jake is saying is you're probably going to do that a lot better if you can pull at somebody's heart rather than blow their mind. And maybe he's not wrong. I mean, let's look at when wrestling was its most popular. We're talking about 11-point Nielsen ratings for segments. You're talking about 11 or 12 million people watching wrestling television at a time. Were every single one of them just part of that fandom who loved wrestling since they were a kid that maybe people didn't get? No, I doubt it. That was your general audience tuning into this thing that had started to blow up. And I think that's where, if I'm understanding what Jake is saying correctly, I think that's where he's drawing the line. If you're playing toward that fandom, if you're playing toward the people that are into it and understand it, I mean, you're going to hook them in because it's what they're into already. And if you're better at it than your average cat, they're going to remember you. But if you're going for a wider audience, if you really want to be that guy or girl, that performer that people remember forever, then you're going to have to do more than maybe play just to that group of people that already get it. You're going to have to try and reach a larger group and bring them in and let them feel it. And once you do that, you've got them.
Got them. What's your take on this here, Karl? You're the one that sent me this topic. What's your take on this? Do you get hooked in more to like the psychological stuff, the promos and the talking, or do you mark out for the in-ring work?
I mean, it's
because you're a former worker in the ring, so you're gonna have a different take.
No, definitely. I mean, it's a little bit of both for me. I mean, if that quick spot dive, right? Like, I mean, that's gonna you do something good like that, it's gonna be remembered. But again, until somebody comes along and does that one step better, then yours is now forgotten.
Mm-hmm.
But as Jake is saying, if you can grip them by emotionally investing them into something, and it doesn't even have to be just verbal, it can be very much so visual as well. I take you back years ago, primetime wrestling when Hulk Hogan and Earthquake, okay, and Earthquake did his Earthquake drop that he sits down on the person. He did that to Hulk Hogan.
Mm-hmm.
And visually, Hulk Hogan left the ring. His chest had blood on it because his cross had dug into him, and he was gripping onto the cross that he was wearing on his necklace, and he was being carted out. That visual, just that simple little thing of holding onto that necklace, gripped me. I remember that to this day. That's embedded in my brain because of the emotion that was behind it, as opposed to, yeah, I mean, I can't remember the last time that like a big spot type of move can really be remembered. I mean, you got the classics, right? Like Jeff Hardy and Edge, right? Like ladder match, you know, different stuff like that. Sure. But like generalized, I really don't. But there's a lot of different emotional type of responses that I've received from professional wrestling that I remember, as opposed to, oh yeah, it was really cool when this person did that move in the ring. So that's, for me anyways, I think that's it there. And when it comes to promo work as well, I mean, Jake Roberts is the master. He is one of the best when it comes to promo work, and just his talking and how he did everything was just so fantastic. I loved it. Loved every little thing. I clung onto every single word that Jake the Snake Roberts had said. And it's whether it's in the soft tone like Jake Roberts did, or if you get somebody like a John Cena who's a little bit more hyped, who's a little bit more loud and brash, you still remember those and you feel it. And when you feel something, you remember it.
For sure. Now, before
I would like to chime in on this topic just real quick.
Before you do though, Ryan.
Oh, you got to go to a break.
Before you do, we're going to take a quick break here. And since we have Mr. Melchor here, this one is very appropriate. And I'm going to insert a couple of breaks in here. So let's do this one here first for you guys.
Hi, my name's Barry Ratcliffe. You might recognize me from such films as The Longest Ride or Ted 2. Now, as a successful actor, I have 2 planes, a supermodel wife, countless exotic cars, and a ton of cash. You might think it couldn't get any better than this, but you'd be wrong. For only $4.99, you could get OVWWrestlingNetwork.com. That's OVWWrestlingNetwork.com for only $4.99. Now, will your life be as good as this? No. Will it be better? Yes, and I guarantee that. That's not valid anywhere. OVWWrestlingNetwork.com is only $4.99. Tomorrow's yesterday is today. Prices so low, they're insane. Want more bang for your buck? Well, so do I at OVWWrestlingNetwork.com. It's only $4.99 a month. In between excitement, me too. OVWWrestlingNetwork.com is only $4.99 a month. You get that incredible value. She cost me $17 million and I loved it. Want a real value? OVWWrestlingNetwork.com. It's only $4.99. That's a price so low. Well, it's insane.
Wrestling. A love and a passion we all share. I've started a wrestling brand, the wrestling brand. A brand founded on the aspects of wrestling. 2 entities working together to create a product that connect emotionally for people everywhere. Collar and Elbow is the brand. Passion and love for wrestling is the drive. I am Al Snow, and this is Collar and Elbow, the wrestling brand.
Dictionary defines hero as a person who is admired or idealized for courage, outstanding achievements, or noble qualities. Being a hero in life is far more than words printed on a page. It takes an unwavering code, a compass that points true north, always. And in times like these, it takes sacrifice. Hero shouldn't be a word defined by a dictionary. It's a word that should be defined by the best of us. Hero has a new definition.
All right, guys, there we go. Big Joe and Karl Karufel back here on Turnbuckle Talk, along with Mr. Michael Melchor and Mr. Ryan K. Boman. So before the break, we were talking about, according to Jake Roberts, new talent doesn't know how to get over. Ryan, you're up next. What's your take on this topic? And according to what Jake said here, what's your take on this?
I would just say this in a nutshell. I've seen a lot of really good guitar players. Mm-hmm. I've seen guys go on stage and break off riffs, because Karl was talking about how these guys can do all these crazy moves and all this stuff. I've seen guys just lay into a lick and they look really good for one night, but there's a difference. If you can play guitar, that's awesome. But if you can play it with charisma, you're a rock star. Yep. And that's the difference between some of these kids that, you can do 100 backflips and you can dive over the top rope all you want. But if you don't do it in a way that really suckers in the audience, and that's pretty much what wrestling is about. Wrestling is a work. Mm-hmm. If you can't, bring those people in and make an emotional connection with them, you're just never going to be anything. And I'm sorry, I'll use a great example, and my best friend's favorite artist ever, Prince. Prince was a great guitar player, but there were better guitar players, but nobody did it with the kind of charisma that he did, or Jimi Hendrix. You have to have something that brings the audience in and gives them an emotional attachment to you. And just like what Karl had said earlier, diving over the top rope doesn't make you a star. No. It's just kind of, at some point, you have to be able to have that connection with the people, and it just doesn't happen that often with everyone.
No,
I'm going to piggyback off that a second and just give you a perfect.
He's going to do a Prince reference. I already know.
Hey, you brought it up first. You're damn right I am.
There you go.
When people
would you agree with me though, Mike? Would you agree with me that there are a million good guitar players, but not everybody's Eric Clapton?
Right. Well, and you brought up Prince yourself. What do people talk about when they talk about Purple Rain? That, man, that solo at the end is awesome. Or that song damn near makes me cry every time I hear it.
It's the emotion.
Right.
Yep. For myself, and Jake is the perfect one for me to work out for this one, because of all the matches I've seen for damn near over 20 years now, I can't think of really too many individual, this was a really cool spot in this match. It's, for me, it's those emotional moments that really kind of stand out to me. And one really in particular, I have it queued up on my phone. I'm not going to play it through the microphone because it'll sound bad. But I'll say is WrestleMania 6, Jake's promo leading up to the match comp with $1 Million Man. That is a perfect example of a guy just being able to speak very intellectually with very few words, get his point across, and suck you in to wanting to watch that match. The match itself, wasn't necessarily the best match of all time physically and all the moves in the ring, but I still wanted to watch. He made you want to watch just by his words. And not every wrestler out there has both of these aspects. A lot of them can really work in the ring, but they can't talk, or vice versa. Some can really talk, but they can't necessarily work in the ring all that well. Once in a while, we do get these ones that have both, and that's, if you can have that, then you are going to be successful in the business of professional wrestling.
Jericho.
Perfect example. Yeah,
of a guy that can
bring him up
and can keep doing it multiple times, changing things up. Yeah. That's even rare, to be able to adjust on the fly and to change who you are and still do it successfully virtually every time.
The king of change. That's what I like to refer to Jericho as, the king of change.
Yep.
He's fantastic with it. Whether it's when he came in as Y2J, or whether he came through even before that as like Lionheart and then Y2J, and then you've got like the friend with Kevin Owens, and then you've got like the list of Jericho, the list, and then even to what he's doing today with Le Champion, and then the Demo God, and like just the guy can reinvent himself but still stay the same, and I mean it's just phenomenal. Like I love Jericho for that. I mean, the guy's phenomenal when it comes to that. But on top of that, he grips you into every single character change that he has made. Like the list of Jericho, that's probably one of the biggest between Y2J and the list of Jericho. It's kind of hard to kind of remember all the different things that he's done in between those. But then you remember Y2J and all the hype that was there for Y2K, and then just everything, and it's all about emotion. It really is. It definitely is. Like, it doesn't have to be all about movesets. It's about emotion.
And another example with him too, there aren't too many, forget just wrestlers, forget just in general, just people that could get one word over. Just look into the camera and go, it. And walk away, and you're left there going, "What just happened?"
Right.
That takes some special ability to be able to make that happen.
Yeah, I can't tell you guys how many times I would walk around the house and tell my kids when they got in trouble, "You just made the list." They were in trouble. So it was just, it was, and then he just kind of like he gave that up and he went and did something else, and it's like every single time he just does something totally different that like you just go, how did he come up with that? Where did that come from?
Yeah, for sure.
And again, that was something that grips you even to this day. My wife and I will be out and we're doing whatever, right? And we'll say, "Oh, we need to go pick this up," or I'll mention something, and she goes, "That just made the list." And then she'll mark it down. Even still today, that happens, right?
Yeah.
So that just shows you how invested that was, and how it resonated with people. And that's that's definitely something that's a little bit lacking today, but is still there. Joe mentioned, I want to just put this out here super quick. Joe mentioned about one word things. I mean, what?
Yeah, another one. Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Right?
That one's a little bit more obnoxious, but
Stone Cold could just go through and just say what, and everybody was hooked. And it became such a huge catchphrase that everybody, there was t-shirts made of it. You could, back in that day, you could walk down the street and you say something and your buddy is going, "What?
Yeah.
What?" Just to piss you off because everybody was doing it.
Because it's not the word. The key there is it's not the word itself. It's all in the delivery and the person that's doing it. Because the average dude out there can just say "what" all day long, and I'd be sitting there going, "Where are you, stupid?" It's just, but it's when it's Stone Cold with that right inflection and the right emotion, saying "what," that's what does it. It's not the word itself. It's all you.
That's right.
It's confidence. Confidence always wins.
Absolutely.
And that's the thing that Austin had. That's the thing The Rock had. Like I've said about young guys that that I know that they want to approach women or whatever. Confidence always wins. You have to be just a little bit cocky and sure of yourself. And I think that's one of the things that like I said, young guys now don't seem to have. It's just weird. It's like it's a strange thing, but Austin had it. The Rock had it. Flair had it. There's just guys out there that could, they inspired you just by the fact that they were so sure of themselves is the only way I can say it.
And I just want to put out there super quick as well that there were guys, Undertaker, that didn't even have to say a damn word.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And you emotionally were gripped. Like that's masterclass right there. That was top of the top. If you didn't have to say a word and you still got over with the crowd and you still emotionally gripped to these people, yeah, wow.
And not only just on him on that too, you have to you have to give credit to the production people as well. The people with the cameras and doing that work, you have to give them some credit with that too, because especially for when you're watching on television, how that is shot. And no, Mike, you can relate to this now. That how that is shot and how that's presented can make or break that moment, and that was always masterfully well done with The Undertaker, and that alongside with his ability was able to make that work. And he probably one of the first ones to give them credit for that as well. All right, guys, before we do our Match of the Week segment here, let us do a little breaking news. Now, Karl might have some actual breaking news, but mine is just a little bit on the silly side, but I thought I'd mention it anyways. This past week, I believe, during this past week, it may have been a little bit earlier than that, but jabroni is now officially a word in the dictionary. I thought that,
I saw that.
Right? I thought that was worth mentioning. I thought that was pretty damn cool. And a lot of people think that that's all the Rock's thing. Cheek was doing that way before the Rock was doing it, but he kind of adopted that. But it put a smile on my face when I saw that had actually made its way into the dictionary now. So there we go. I just thought I'd mention that.
It should be.
It should be.
You're right. It should be. It definitely should be.
What about you, Karl? You got any breaking news this week that you want to bring up?
I think probably the real biggest one right now, floating around on social media, besides our Showstopper segment today. So stay tuned for that, people, because you are not going to want to miss this one. We're looking at Rebby Hardy and her going off again on the wrestling community and promoters and companies and stuff over something that happened at the AEW pay-per-view that just happened. A pretty, what looked to be very dangerous spot happened with Sammy Guevara and Matt Hardy. A 10-foot high fall down. It was supposed to land on I believe it was tables. It's hard for me to remember right now because all I can think of is Matt Hardy's head smacking that concrete down on the floor. And I mean, I've been there. Yeah. I definitely have. Thankfully, we do know that that Matt Hardy did not receive a concussion. That has been put out there, and that he is doing okay. But that's pretty scary. And having Rebby go out there and now bash the community again, saying, this was terrible. They should have stopped the match. What are they thinking? They have no regard for the workers and blah, blah, blah. She is just causing drama and conflict again like you wouldn't believe. But, I mean, I kind of expected that from Rebby. As soon as I saw that on social media, because I was working, I couldn't actually watch. But as soon as I saw that, because it was flooded social media with that spot, I knew right away. I'm like, we're gonna hear from Rebby. Really, other than that, it's I've been really busy with work over the last 4 days, so I really haven't seen a lot for breaking news. But maybe Ryan or Mike, maybe each one of them have a little bit of breaking news. But I think Ryan's got something that he wants to say about Rebby.
Just briefly on that before you go, Ryan.
I would just say I'm sorry. Go ahead. I would just say, have you guys ever heard that Buck Cherry song, "Crazy Bitch"?
Yes.
I'm pretty sure that's Matt Hardy's wife.
Stole my line.
Constantly
stole my line.
Crap all the time, and it's like you need to just be quiet. You haven't done anything really in the wrestling. Let your husband do his job and stop commenting. She has a real issue when it comes to social media.
Yeah, she's never had a filter on there. She said some really nasty things. There's some people, some wrestlers' wives, that should stay off of, stay off of social media. But when it comes to commenting about your husband's career and what's going on, you need to tread carefully. And she's always put her foot in her mouth constantly, and in these kind of scenarios and situations. Even notoriously the one girl who was it Ashley who she killed herself, and Ashley was talking crap, and Rebby was talking crap about her during that situation. I mean, zero class in that situation.
Yeah, that's and I have a lot of respect for Matt, but it's just like your wife is kind of, I don't know.
To be fair, however, just on the subject of Freebie overall, Yeah, I mean, I think it was Karl who was like, I mean, I kind of expected her to chime in. It's like, at this point, yeah, but I will say, in all fairness to her, I mean, in this particular situation, I mean, she's vocally concerned for her husband, and for
Absolutely.
one, I can't.
Yeah.
But another thing I saw, and kind of tracing this as it was happening, of course, people are going to respond to her. Rebby's going to Rebby, and people are going to respond to that.
Mm-hmm.
And somebody was like, well, why don't you, before you start running your mouth about, Tony Khan, all the promoters, everything, why don't we look at why your husband did, basically point the finger at her husband.
Yep.
And Remy's response was, yeah, I'm pretty sure I said right off the bat that I'm the most pissed off at one particular person, and I'm married to him for doing this.
True. Yeah.
Like, she flat out said, she's going to burn everybody down. But to be fair, she was like, her first reaction was like, you stupid son of a bitch, what are you doing? And she's talking about her own husband for doing the spot.
I did see that.
Which, trust me, I could tell a story or two about seeing spots like that now live and in person. And even, I think I saw like a Twitter clip. Like, I didn't see All Out live as it happened, but I saw like a GIF or a clip of that, and I was just like, I don't even think I can make it all the way through. Like, I saw where they were going with it, and the angle I saw, I couldn't quite see his head hit the concrete, and I'm just like, you know what? I'm kind of glad I can't, because I would be even more like, no, don't stop, I didn't quite see it. I don't know that I'm going to go back and check it out for that. I mean, not the show. I'm going to watch a show, but I might just skip over that part if I know it's coming, because I've seeing it happen in person now. I damn sure don't want to see it. I can stop. I can safely stop there. I just don't want to see it.
When it comes to,
with all due respect, Mike, let's just be honest. She is kind of nuttier than an elephant turd.
Sure. No, I'm not saying she's not, out there somewhere like Pluto, I mean, she is, but I'm saying in this particular case, in this particular instance, not only do I understand her concern, but in all fairness, the first person she turned that on was her husband. You idiot, what are you doing? So.
Yeah. For myself, when it comes to Rebby on social media, what I've just kind of, I'll make the comparison, when South Park, when they do crazy stuff on South Park, and everybody just kind of goes, it's South Park. It is what it is. For me, that's Rebby's guy on social media. It's like, it's Rebby. At this point, who cares?
Like I said, Rebby's going to Rebby.
Rebby's going to Rebby. South Park's going to South Park. Rebby's going to Rebby.
It's kind of like when I get up in the morning and I just check out Trump's Twitter feed and I go, what kind of crazy shit is going to happen today?
Oh, yeah.
And I'm like, oh, Christ.
Yeah.
you just have to sort of throw your hands up and accept it. It's I don't really I realize that she's concerned about her husband and everything else, but I also think she's kind of nuts.
For
I
sure.
think there's something psychologically wrong with that woman. But
there very well could be.
Whatever.
All right, guys. One more segment here before our Showstopper segment. Let us do Match of the Week. All right, and since we have two guests on the show here this week, Karl, I figure let's let our guests go first here.
Oh, yeah.
Mr. Melchor, if you've had some chance to watch some wrestling this week, and hopefully you have, what was your match of the week for this past week?
I've seen a little.
Me too.
Like I said, I didn't see All Out. I saw Dynamite leading up to it, which... And I'm just going to leave it there. I didn't see Raw. I literally have SmackDown on now, beside, I'm doing this on the laptop, the tablet's right beside me, so I've got that on silent, so I haven't seen any of that.
Right.
I haven't seen much, but, and I hate to do this because everybody's think, oh, he's just plugging his own company. Well, for one, of course I am, but for two, legitimately, I think my favorite match this week was OVW 1099, the number one contenders match between Rockstar Ryan Howe and Brian Pillman Jr. It goes back to, it goes back to what we were talking about earlier. There weren't a whole lot of flashy moves in this. I mean, you just heard me say the name Brian Pillman Jr. There weren't a whole lot of flashy moves in this match, despite the fact that he was in it. Because I've heard, like I said, those conversations, I've heard him even talking about wanting to learn the finer points of the psychology. So there wasn't, like, the biggest move in the match came from Ryan Howe, because, a guy who's been around OVW for 10 years, he's seeing Brian Pillman come in and potentially take this opportunity at the OVW championship, because there's only one guy that can win and go on to meet Tony Gunn at 1100. Howe's been around for years, and seeing Pillman, this younger guy, come along, the biggest move of the match came from Howe, because he was desperate enough that he wanted to win it. And it was that kind of feeling, that kind of storytelling out of those two that really, stood out with the little I was able to see this week. That's what stood out to me, is Howe and Pillman both telling an excellent story heading into the 1100th episode of OVW.
Excellent.
I do have to say to that Ryan Howe is a guy that I have followed for a long while now. My first experience with Ryan Howe live in person was actually at an independent show. Universal Wrestling Enterprises is what this company was called, and they had come up and done a show. Yep. They came up and did a show in Sault Ste. Marie, Michigan at the Dreammakers Theater, and that was my first experience with Ryan. And I mean, I was blown away. I was flabbergasted. The guy was very good. I was super happy with everything, and from then on, I'm like, I got to continue to follow this guy.
He's got a presence, that guy.
Yeah, he definitely does.
Yeah, and the rock star, once again, a call back to earlier in the show, we talked about a guitar player. He can do his own. He did it. A matter of fact, it was last year, September 11th last year, the Fight for Freedom show. He played out King's Ransom and the Rock and Roll Express as a 4-man team. That was the last time we saw him before recently. And as good as, he is, as memorable as the rock star is, I can vouch that I've only recently actually met him, and just one of the coolest guys I could think to talk to. Like, as much of a star as you would think he is by his persona, like dealing with the real person's the polar opposite. He is such a cool, down to earth dude, and I dig him.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
Ryan, what's your pick for this week?
Honestly, it's probably for all the wrong reasons. I think it's the Matt Hardy match we were just talking about, because it literally is like a lesson in why you shouldn't take those big spots. You shouldn't take those big bumps.
I love that he said for all the wrong reasons. Sorry.
No, because if you don't risk your damn life, flying onto concrete when you're 45 years old or however old. He's probably got to be at least my age. It's just at some point, you need to stop taking these risks. And I think that's it's a lesson in caution to young wrestlers. Less is more. You don't have to do all those big spots. So I guess to me, it's more of it's like a Cliff Notes version of why you shouldn't be doing these things.
Well,
and so that I'm picking that as the match of the week.
And to me, it goes back to earlier. It's the big flashy moves versus how you hook people emotionally. Who's going to remember Matt Hardy? If it weren't for Rebby, who would remember Matt Hardy bouncing his skull off the concrete come the end of December?
Or if he had died. The only reason they would have remembered it is if he would have died.
Well, yeah, and that would be a completely different story. But, again, thank God he did suffer a concussion apparently, but otherwise he's okay. So nothing serious or career ending or permanent or life threatening. Yes. If it had been, obviously we'd remembered it. But since it's not, are we really going to be thinking about that move when we're thinking about the year end stuff or anything else coming up? Is it really going to be that memorable? I doubt it.
No, it's not worth it for
problem.
1 night.
No. And that's where I'm, and much speaking to your point, that's the problem.
All right, Karl, you're next. What was your pick for this past week here?
My pick comes from All Out, actually. and it's a little bit different than people might expect. I'm giving some props to the females, to the women here. Hikaru Shida defeating Thunder Rosa for the AEW Women's World Championship. The two of them just are, it's like they've been working each other forever. Like, it was just beautiful to see. They worked so good together, so nice together. Everything just flowed with them. They put on a really good show, and that's, for me, that's what I want to see. I want to see good work in that ring. I don't need to see all this high fly, flippy. I don't even need to see, 10 minutes of an arm bar or a Boston crab or whatever on the mat. I want to see actual work. And these two ladies gave me work in that ring, and I was very happy with it.
Good stuff. You saw me briefly get up from my spot here. I had an alarm going off there, so I just had to run up to hit that so we wouldn't hear it during the program here. For myself, I have a bit of a two-part one this week here. First off, my main match of this past week is not from Wrestling Current, just to get that right off the hop here. This is something I watched on YouTube. Again, Ring of Honor has been putting up full matches on YouTube, and it's been fantastic. I've been consuming a lot of their stuff. This is going back to 2016. It was called The Match Without Honor between Dalton Castle and Silas Young. If you have a chance to go and watch this match, check it out. It was absolutely fantastic. I believe it was around about an 18-minute match, and just some fantastic stuff with these two guys. Fantastic.
It definitely is. Any time that you have Silas Young, yeah, definitely. I mean, I'm a huge fan of Silas Young. That kind of old school type of feel that he has to him really works over with me. Anyways, I know it doesn't for a lot of other people, but for me, I love seeing that old school type of work, and he can take that old school and bring it into today and really work it in every match that he's in. So sure. I mean, that's a cool pick. Very cool.
And this was really at the height of Dalton Castle with the boys, and that whole gimmick that he had going, and it was a fantastic match. Make sure and go on YouTube and watch that if you have a chance, if you haven't already seen it. Now, my honorable mention, since we have Mr. Melchor on here who does work for OVW, I wanted to get a little OVW flavor into here for mine for this week. So, honorable mention for me for this one here, not a match, but this was a promo segment done with Mr. Adam Revolver, and they were dressed up in the COVID gear and whatnot. And the best part of this wasn't his promo. The best part of this for me, what really made me pop the whole time, was the guy doing the sign language beside him. Go watch. Mike, you probably know what I'm talking about here. Just want to make sure that I'm referencing it. Probably this was
Mike probably filmed it.
Yeah, this was from episode.
I don't know that I did this particular one, but I know exactly what you're talking about.
This one was from episode 1097, so that's the one to go and watch. And this was absolutely fantastic. That this guy was, and it's clearly not correct sign language. I mean, he was like, it was like he was talking like when he had to go wash, he would go like this and go like that, and just like he was like doing this, and just you have to go and watch it, and like you'll be if you have a sense of humor like I have, you'll be just pissing yourself the whole time. It was fantastic. I was still listening to what he was saying, which was still good. But I mean, that guy with the sign language almost kind of stole the show. It reminded me, like on the news. I don't know if it's like this down in the States here with you guys, but you have like the politician or the mayor or whoever talking, and they had the person beside doing the sign language. It reminded me of that, and just even that, and that sign language being done for legit, and that makes me laugh. So it was just fantastic. So I wanted to make sure I mentioned that. I don't know who the guy was that was doing that, but it was just amazing.
William Lutz.
There we go.
I was just going to say he deserves all that credit for that. Lutz is
shout out.
He's a good kid, and he's one of the I think one of the unsung heroes of our roster. He's entertaining as hell no matter what he gets into. But I remember the first time I saw that as we were taping it, I'm watching him do all this, and I'm like, and it went from, oh, okay, we've got a sign language guy, to what the hell is he doing to, the entire time. As I'm picking up what they're doing, I'm like, oh my God, this is great. Yeah. Lutz is, he's wonderful at this. They could not have picked a better dude doing this. This is awesome.
Fantastic. I think we broke right.
I just went on a screen laughing at that.
I think
anyway.
I think it was maybe the second or third spit take we've had on the show. It was pretty good.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Before we do our Showstopper segment from this week, let's hear from our partners over at thechairshot.com.
Why should you visit thechairshot.com? Thechairshot.com is your home for hard-hitting reviews, news, opinion, and analysis with attitude. Why? Because you're smarter than the average fan. Thechairshot.com. Always use your head.
So there we go, guys, and a special shout out to Greg over at thechairshot.com, who after the grillposition.com getting sold, was gracious enough to take us on, and so big thanks to those guys. And of course, we're still over at the indiepw.com as well. Just wanted to make sure I mentioned all those.
Slogan, by the way.
Always use your head. I like that one too. All right, guys, it's time for our final segment for this week here, the Showstopper segment. All right, so this one's a bit of a doozy here, and most weeks I think that this would just kind of be the first topic that we would cover in the program. But I thought, since we have all four of us on here this week, this would be something good to really delve into. Now, over this past week, the WWE, and I guess you could say largely Vince with this here, essentially banning any WWE talent from doing essentially anything with any kind of third party here. This opens the door to a pretty wide discussion. I mean, we could cover a number of issues that tie into this, but just a general take on this. I'll start again with you, Mr. Melchor. What's your take on talent not being able to essentially do anything with third parties? Like we're talking, streaming, we're talking interviews with podcasts, YouTube, that kind of stuff. I mean, this is a bit of a game changer. I think it could be long term here.
I've heard, and I've heard a little bit about this, so I probably need to clarify if somebody could for me first. Is this because I've heard this, that they can't use their performer name or versus their real name? Can they still do Cameo and TikTok using their real name instead of their WWE name, or they cannot do it at all, period, full stop? Because I've heard both, and there seems to be some confusion about how that's happening.
Vince claims, or not, I shouldn't say Vince, but the company claims that they can't even use the real names.
That's what I've heard as well.
So they're saying at all.
Yeah. If you're working for WWE, that's all you're doing, even though you're an independent contractor, supposedly, you're working for us, and that is all you're going to do, unless it's something that we clearly authorize you to do.
I'm sorry. At that point, you're not an independent contractor.
No, clearly not. Right?
I mean, come on. I could see. I mean, I'm coming from a unique perspective because I'm seeing both sides of it now, from the boys and the office, so to speak, to use the old terminology, or the performers in the company. It's you'd prefer. You always want the talent or the performers to represent the company they work for in the best light possible. Whether that gets into control over what they say, how they say it, where they say it, I think is where the debate is at. But it kind of seems like, I don't know if that's Vince's thing, or if it almost feels like they're seeing potential money-making opportunity in their talent doing these things, and doing TikTok and doing Cameo and doing Twitch and all of this stuff. And, with every entertainment company in the world hurting for money right now because of the year we've had, it wouldn't surprise me if they're seeing this as an opportunity to lock down some revenue streams at the expense of the talent doing them, which... Yeah, I understand the need to bring in revenue, but no, that's not cool. That's, these people are doing this on their own time, because let's face it, as much as the company is hurting, so are the people working for it. There's nobody coming to pay to see you wrestle. There's no one, more importantly for them, there's no one showing up to buy your shirt so you get a cut of that. It's not happening. It can't. I mean, all of your fans are on TV screens at the moment. They might be able to buy something online, but, even then, everybody's been affected by this. The money's not there. And this is the best way they can think of to make up some of that. So I don't see, to me, let me put it this way. If I were in charge and if it were me, I'd be like, look, as long as you're not out there doing something completely stupid or just completely trashing the profession you work in, do what you got to do. You know, I understand y'all need to make that money too. So do we. You know, if we want to work out an agreement, great. But otherwise, go do what you got to do. You know, I get it because we need to get paid, but, you know, we understand. So do you. Just don't do anything dumb. Don't, you know, trash us or anybody else. Remember to respect the business and profession that you work in. And other than that, go do your thing. Like, why does it bother Vince? Why would Vince give a damn if somebody wants to go, you know, stream a few rounds of Street Fighter? You know, what does that how does that affect? What does that have?
And I'm jumping because I know Karl's getting ready to go off about this, but I will say this: like, think about how much exposure, you know, the up down YouTube channel got, or Zack Ryder's YouTube channel. Why do they always feel the need to like step in when somebody goes out and makes a name for themselves outside of WWE? That's one of the craziest things about it. It's like, if somebody goes out and gets themselves over, all of a sudden the company decides, yeah, well, you can't do that anymore.
That's the issue right there. Getting yourself over without Vince's approval. That's the problem.
You know what I think the other part of this might be? There's and I just remembered coming across this. In fact, I'm literally, if I'm looking weird, like I'm typing and I'm looking at the screen, it's probably because I am. There's I can't remember the name of it, but there's a show on, it's a YouTube show or something like that, or a Twitch channel. Here I have it. The Sweets, it's apparently called. SWEETZ. The cast of which, the three main primary people involved, we're gonna play a quick game of one of these things is not like the other, okay? Are y'all guys ready?
Sure.
The main cast is Baron Corbin, Tyler Breeze, and Sean Spears. And this is a show that's happening now.
Yeah.
I wonder if, doing the math, that part of the reason behind this edict that banning them from doing this is there are quite a few performers doing this with performers from other companies, which they probably don't want them intermingling in with. So, sorry, I didn't mean to break into continuity or anything. Okay. I just had that thought, and I'm like, wait a minute. That just dawned on me that maybe that's part of the reasoning behind this is thou shalt not fraternize with the enemy, whether it's online or not.
Yep, that very well could be, and I'll touch on that when it comes to my turn. What's your take on this here, Karl?
So, first of all, I'm going to read it out here for everybody. What actually was sent to the talent? It says, some of you are engaged with outside third parties using your name and likeness in ways that are detrimental to our company. It is imperative that these activities be terminated within the next 30 days by Friday, October 2nd. Continued violations will result in fines, suspensions, or termination at the WWE's discretion. So this was an order that was actually sent down by Vince himself. They have 30 days now to cease and desist. Cease and desist all of their activities, whether it's on Twitch streaming, cameo requests, whatever they're doing. So it's... Dude, what are you doing? Like, seriously.
Now,
if you don't want your people doing this other stuff, if you don't want them doing this other stuff, compensate them for that.
Yeah.
Pay them more.
Thank you.
Consequently,
you see all of these stars.
If you want out of your contract, keep streaming Street Fighter.
Right.
Sorry. Go on.
Now, what I will say...
I totally get that. But and this is something that's irks me from the very beginnings of my days watching professional wrestling, or I should say from when I understood and knew the pay structure that these people were getting. You're having football players and basketball players and hockey players that are going out there, golfers that are making millions within a year or a season of only having to go out there and work a handful of dates, 75, 80, 90 dates of work and making 4.5 million in a year. But yet Vince McMahon, who is part of a billionaires club, I'm not sure that he is still, but was part of a billionaires club, and your talent that you're using for curtain jerker matches, let's say, are only making $40,000 a year and having to pay their own expenses and their own flights and their own food and their own hotel. Dude,
and their medical
costs.
Have
to compensate somehow.
Now, from what you're saying here, Karl, it sounds like it might be okay for them to use their actual names, their real names to do stuff. And if that's the case, I mean, I'll make a bit of maybe possibly a bit of a weird reference here. That's to me, that's like when you see Clark Kent and you don't know that he's Superman just because his hair was a little bit different. I'm like, anybody with half a brain in their head could tell that Clark Kent was Superman. So you're telling if AJ Styles goes on Twitch using his actual name, people are going to go, oh, who's that guy? I don't know who that is.
Like, see, it's a very fine line.
Yeah, and that's kind of why I was asking before, because that memo, like Joe said, the way that memo reads, it's like, okay, what are we talking about? Yeah. Are you using your ring name or using your real name? Like, can you get away with using your real name doing it? That's, I think where some of the confusions come from, because I don't know if that's been a question that has been 100% answered by the company / the individual, Vince McMahon, who put this out there in the first place.
As of yet, it has not been fully confirmed. Okay. What we do know is that the inclusion of likeness was put in there for that reason. So if Alan Jones were to go on to Twitch, he still looks like AJ Styles. That's a likeness. Yeah. So therefore can't be used.
Yeah. Let's hear what
that's how they're gonna they're gonna flip things and go,
fair play.
You still look like AJ Styles. Yeah. So therefore you are AJ Styles, even though your name is Alan Jones.
Yeah, you have to go over in the Daffy Duck costume or something to mask your appearance. Because even then, you'd be subject to copyright issues. It's just given this current landscape and just the way that things are. I think that this is, from what as we're kind of going here, it seems like this could be malleable. This situation that it could alter, but I think even just considering this, I think it's bad timing right now to implement something like this, especially when some of these talents, like you had mentioned, some of the lower mid card guys. I mean, they need to make some money to survive here, guys. And I think this is again just another bad look for the company here.
As someone who has close ties to AJ, I can guarantee you this ain't gonna fly.
No,
right?
Because he has his Twitch channel and he wants to do his own thing and he has all that stuff. And I can tell you, I've talked to, I know his agent, Mike knows his agent or his, the guy that discovered him. And I can't see this. They might lose one of their biggest stars over just BS like this, which is, and that's really all it is. Just BS. That's all it is. They're trying to bully the talent.
Yep. And it kind of sucks because that's one of the things that, during the pandemic, just kind of going off on what's not going to seem like a related tangent, but I'll bring it back to trust me on this one, as Jake Roberts would say. One of the things I've discovered during the pandemic and working is video games. Like, I haven't played since I was a kid, but like I've just recently, I'd say within the last 2 weeks, I went and bought a PS4 and racked up, I already had a copy of Street Fighter V, but I went with the Champion Edition because that's one of my favorite games ever. The same with Doom. Like, I went and bought the new Doom games because I remember playing that as a kid, and I love those things. But in not only playing them, but now I've gotten, since I've been working home literally since March, and probably will be through at least the end of this year, one of the things people talk about, this is a great time to catch up on stuff I haven't seen. It is, but that's only going to last so long before, So one of the things I've discovered is not just playing games, but watching them. So I've recently started watching Twitch and people play, whether it's, Ethan Page has a Twitch channel, where he does stuff like that. Yep. Sammy Callahan does, AJ, of course, all these guys. that I've just started watching and catching on with, like, oh, cool, I can watch people that I dig on playing games that I dig on. This sounds like a damn fun time. And now from a fan's perspective, that's being cut off. Because now a lot of these people we like to engage with, like, you know, your Xavier Woods, your AJ Styles, your Mia Yim, all those are going to be affected now by being told, yeah, no, you kind of can't do that anymore. Sorry. Yeah. So even from a fan's perspective, that's kind of a damn bummer.
I think you were going to make another point there, Karl.
Yeah, I think I'm going to call it right now. This is all so that Vince McMahon can capitalize on making his own type of service that he will allow then the superstars to use. So he's going to create his own type of Cameo where people can pay, as they do with Cameo, to have a shout out. And he's going to have his own type of streaming service that he's going to allow the superstars then to stream their video games and all of this stuff on. And it's all going to be put out there for a fee, of course, for everyone to use. I can see it now. I can see it now.
I can see it too.
Or it becomes, I mean, and that's what I was saying earlier. You know, he's discovering these revenue streams, and as a company, they're going to need it. So why not take and adapt that themselves? It's either, I think you're onto something there, Karl. I think it's either going to be a separate service he's going to come up with, or they make it just part of the network content and be done with it, and get more people to try and sign up and pay $9.99 a month, because really that would be the easiest way to convert that right now.
Or you have some kind of premium tier, with that involved.
Right.
Now,
which something else they've been talking about doing. So now they might have their to up that price structure a little bit and play with that.
Something else.
I know it in Canada, at least they already have. There is a free version of the WWE Network that's available with very limited content.
Yeah, there is here too.
And then for us, the price went up. So, I mean, I'm now paying, I think it's $15 a month as opposed to $12 or whatever it was, which, I mean, for me, I don't care. I still use it. I use it on my computer. I put it over to my other monitor, and I can sit there and watch any classic stuff that I want and still be able to do my work on the computer. Still get all the pay-per-views, all of that, right? And I PVR them so that I can go back and watch them again when I have time to. So for me, $15 a month is worth it. But if they were to start now adding more stuff on there for extra costs, I don't think that I would be very apt to do that, considering that I already am paying for other subscription services, whether it's the WWE Network, whether it's our use of StreamYard. Shout out to those guys over there. They're amazing with this platform here, whether it's, Google for Google Play Music or YouTube Premium and, different stuff like that. So people, myself included, are already paying for all of these extra different things. And then if you start throwing extra stuff on top of that, you're not going to get the people that are going to buy it, because they're going, I already subscribe to your network and you want me to pay more now.
Right. I'm in that same boat as you. There's, again, with the pandemic, there's a whole bunch of, there's the WWE Network, of course, but there's also IWTV. There's, outside of that, CBS All Access I subscribe to. I got to have my Star Trek. What can I say? There's a whole bunch of things. YouTube Premium with YouTube Music is also, one of those. I mean, if you're gonna put extra content on it, I get it. But if you're gonna make me, oh, by the way, we're gonna go from 10 to 20, then it's a matter of, okay, how much value am I getting out of this? With all these other things I'm paying for, would I rather keep them and ditch you? Or, how is that going to work?
Yeah. And in the middle of a pandemic, when everybody has to have a budget, a different kind of budget, what do you have to make a decision on what you're going to pay for and what you're not.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, another thing with this here, now I know we're going a bit long here this week, but I want to touch on this as well.
Damn, we did go long.
Yeah. But, since, and I think this is worth bringing up because I have been hearing about this as well.
When you get us all in the same room.
Right? Absolutely. We can talk for hours.
Terrible.
With it being
like
Labor
family reunion.
With it being Labor Day today, you guys, I think this is almost kind of ironic that this is coming up in this topic here. With this going on, this is come up as an issue a few times. I think the last time was when we had you, Ryan, on, and I think we had Mr. Rick Vickery on as well in that episode. Union. When with this situation coming up again, I'm hearing word of this creeping up again, of a wrestler's labor or some type of union tied with this. Now, with this going on with WWE, that conversation seems to be creeping up again. What do you guys think? Could this spark that to really happen now?
I believe that in the next couple of years, I think it'll in the next year or two, I believe it'll happen. I really do, because at this point, the wrestlers have gained enough value in themselves that if they honestly walked away from, let's say, a major pay-per-view, Vince would have no point to try to not negotiate with them at least and come up with some sort of end game to this, to where they all have some kind of benefits that, you don't have to pay everybody. I would just do it like the NFL does. Guys who are in the NFL get a minimum salary.
Yeah.
They get benefits. It makes no sense to not do this anymore.
What do you think, Mike? It's a tough one, especially for smaller promotions.
I hate to say it, but I'm gonna have to disagree a little bit with my brother from another mother.
My brother.
Should there be? There should have been a long time ago.
Yeah.
Will there be? Not until the laws change surrounding these companies and how they treat people that work for them.
Yeah.
That's where it's going to have to come from. Until that gets done, until that gets into Congress and they realize, these people are kind of being given a raw deal. We need to modify how they're being treated in a legal sense and put it on paper and make it law. Until that happens, no, I don't think it will. Because this kind of discussion, whenever the performers are treated badly, which seems to happen, unfortunately, quite a bit, there's talk of that union that pops up, and then it just goes away again until something else this comes up and it goes. So along with the laws changing, I think the performers themselves have to have a concentrated, sustained effort to, okay, let's make this a thing. We need to make this happen for our own sake. And you're asking an awful lot of people, not just in WWE as performers, but like you said, the smaller companies. You're asking an awful lot of performers to come together to do that.
But Mike, I'm going to counter that by saying, that happened in every single major pro sport. There were people who were making absolutely nothing playing pro football. Yeah. There were people who had to work jobs in Major League Baseball, had to work jobs in the off season to, finally make that happen. I'm just telling you, I think eventually at some point people are going to get sick of it and say,
well, and I hope it does. I'm not saying it's a bad idea at all. Like I said, it's something that should have already happened. I hope it does. But as much as we've heard the talk about a pro wrestling union going back to Roddy Piper and Jesse Ventura. So we're talking 30 years now. If it's going to happen, then either the performers or lawmakers or a combination thereof need to step up and make it happen.
And regulate the sport.
Right. Until then,
they need to regulate the business.
Yep.
Yeah. Like Kentucky, Kentucky, as we all know, and ask anybody who's had to deal with the Kentucky Boxing and Wrestling Commission about the Kentucky Boxing and Wrestling Commission. Kentucky is heavily regulated when it comes to combat sports and sports entertainment. On the flip side of that coin, however, all you have to do is to go over to the state of Indiana, where there's not even a boxing and wrestling commission, much less any form of regulation put on pro wrestling at all.
For me, with this issue here, it's the idea of it. I think is fantastic, and I agree with both Ryan and Mike here that it should have already happened. My problem comes with when we're talking about promotions like our friends over at Ignite Wrestling with Kim and Arlip. When it comes with CWE with our friend Danny, if this minimum wage for wrestlers comes into effect. My fear is that these small promotions can't do it. They just financially aren't going to be able to dish out that minimum wage for the workers. That's my concern.
Well, and And I don't think you're wrong, because as much as we talked about, pro sports in football, for example, honestly, now that I think about it, it's a tough call. Is there such a thing as an independent or little league, football team that you're aware of, an independent one? Not really,
No.
but baseball has AA and AAA clubs all over the place.
Yeah.
So, and I don't know how those are regulated or governed.
Yeah.
I'm not going to pretend to. I think that falls more under Ryan's purview than mine. He's much more
you would have to
guy than I am. But
you would have to clearly make a distinction and be like, okay, the WWE, New Japan, these guys, okay, that's the pro league, and everybody else is kind of like the minor league. You'd have to almost kind of make that distinction, and then do a pay scale kind of structure based off of that.
Yeah, but I mean, even going back to our main point, this discussion we're having now about what constitutes a major and minor league and how that would legally break down is just only one of several dozen, 100 discussions you would have to have before enacting something like this on a broad scale.
Yep.
There's an awful lot of work ahead to do it. But, like I said, I'm of the opinion that I don't, maybe it should be done. But until the lawmakers and performers, like I said, get together and make a sustained effort to make it happen, it won't.
I'm gonna kick it over to Karl here in a little bit, but I think I would make the biggest comparison I would make is the controversy of whether or not college football players and college athletes should be paid, because 100,000 people show up and pay money to watch them play, and they don't get paid anything. And that's sort of, and they don't get any, kind of long-term benefits or anything like that. If they get hurt and they don't make it to the pros,
they're screwed.
They're done.
Yep.
That's
good
it.
answer. That's a very good point.
So it's kind of, that's sort of like my thing with pro wrestlers at this point. It's like, at least give them some sort of guarantee that they're going to be taken care of. If you, I'll go back to the Matt Hardy thing. You get dropped on your head and you're crippled for the rest of your life, please let me know that you're giving me insurance. That I'm not going to ever have to work again because I have some form of disability pay for the sacrifices I made as a pro wrestler. And that's just sort of the one thing that I think a pro wrestling union would guarantee.
That's a fair point. You go, Karl.
So I fully agree with everything that has been said here, whether it's been for one side or the other. I mean, I can totally see both sides when it comes to this. Ryan just spoke about, the other junior football, let's just say, or the college football. For them, they've got scholarships, so their education is paid for, but they have to play football. Right. So, I mean, they have a little bit of something that in case the football doesn't happen, they got that education that they can fall back onto. Not saying that that's right, because I don't think it is. If you're putting out a product for somebody, you should be paid for it. But I agree that, yes, there should be some sort of medical that is in there for people, some sort of some sort of coverage that's going to happen in case you do get hurt and injured. I agree with that. Now, when we're talking about a wrestlers union, we're talking in North America. Okay. So whether it's Canada, whether it's the United States, for a wrestlers union, now what's going to happen if they want to bring somebody from New Japan? Now, there is no union over there. Now, are they going to have to now come in and have to pay union dues and union fees for a week's worth of work that they're going to be doing? So, like Mike had said there's a lot of different things and a lot of different, you could spin off into 100 different things. And it's something that, if it is going to come into being, it really needs to be sat down with workers, not with just laymen, with actual people who are in the business, not somebody that doesn't know squat about it, not somebody that's just part of a union already. That's not going to make any difference. You have to actually sit down with a plethora of people who are inside the professional wrestling business for these types of questions. Like, what happens if I bring somebody from, this area? What happens if I bring somebody from Germany, from Japan, from China, from wherever? we got to have all of that put into place. And I think that one of the biggest issues, and something that's been a reason why, going back to Piper days, that this has been something that's talked about.
Yeah.
You can't get the right people all together in the same area to discuss this, to get it done, because you're going to have those people that are for a union, and you have those people that are not for a union. And it's hard to really collaborate with all of these different people to really get something done. And that's one of the biggest reasons why it's been so long. But yes, I do believe that there should be something in place, whether it is unionized or whether it's just a guarantee that there is some sort of coverage for medical purposes.
I think it should be like SAG. I think, Karl, I think it should be like the Screen Actors Guild, like SAG.
Yeah.
They don't, everybody's an independent contractor, but at the same time, they're guaranteed union benefits, on the side. I think it's got to be kind of half and half.
Yeah.
I think with the pro wrestlers, they're all performers. So obviously they're independent workers, but at the same time, they also risk their lives. So at some point you have to say, they should have some kind of protection, some kind of coverage.
Having said that, you just hinted at what I'm going to get to here, Ryan, is that what I foresee happening, and I feel bad for kind of saying this, but I think what it's going to take for some real change to happen here, and a lot of times in these situations, this is what has to happen. Something really bad, something really negative has to happen. I think for some real change to come in this labor movement in professional wrestling, is we're gonna need another Owen Hart type of incident to happen. Something like that is going to happen to be that catalyst for some real change to happen, I think. And I think until something like that happens, it's going to be this thing that's constantly in limbo. Somebody's going to unfortunately have to have something really devastating happen to really shock the industry into changing.
Oh, and to play devil's advocate, that's
I think it's something.
Go ahead, Mike.
Go ahead, Mike. I'm sorry.
No, this will be real quick, fortunately. But to play devil's advocate, that's kind of what I was getting to the first time around. Why didn't this sort of thing happen when there was an Owen Hart incident we've already had happen?
Yeah,
because we even didn't have social media then.
Nope.
If that happened right now, if someone died in the ring right now, in the era of social media, the outrage would be crazy. Where in '99 we were all just like shocked by it, and we didn't even find out about it till the next day. If it had happened right now, we'd know about it within seconds. And that's the biggest thing, is social media has changed the way wrestling is viewed anyway. And if someone actually does die, like for example, we talked about the Matt Hardy thing earlier. If he had died in that spot, we would have been talking immediately about how, we need a union, we need people to have health care, we need to have coverage and all this other stuff. So it's just a totally different era now.
Yep. It's not the first time that this topic's coming in. It's not going to be the last. This is something that's it's going to keep happening, and hopefully something, like I had mentioned, something bad to happen. I'm hoping that we don't have to resort to that to actually initiate some change, but we'll see. It's something that it's always going to eventually come up as a topic on this program. All right, to kind of wrap things up here for this week, guys, let's start with you, Mike.
Oh my gosh, how long did we go?
We got just over an hour and a half. We could probably go. We could probably do a 3-hour show if we wanted to here, if we really had the time. But Mr. Melchor, tell everybody where they can find you, and again, just kind of what you've been up to.
Twitter at mmelchor, Facebook and Instagram. Michael Melchor, search for my name and the wine bottle.
Still do the wine bottle.
More importantly, on Twitter, OVW Wrestling. Instagram, the same. Look for our page on Facebook where you can keep up with everything going on, including, like I said, our 1100th episode airing this week on several outlets that we have now that we are now on. We are the numbers. I had to kind of keep this in line, but then I found a way to simplify the numbers. We are on in more than 200 countries, reaching more than 100 million homes. So awesome. That many people this week can see our historic 1100th episode.
Sweet. All right, what about you, Ryan? Where can people find you and what you're up to?
Well, you can follow me on Sportskeeda. I'm a contributing writer and podcaster at Sportskeeda Wrestling. And you can follow me on Facebook and Twitter at ryankbowman.com. Just look for the really handsome devil with the spiky hair. That's me.
Absolutely. All right, Karl, and tell everybody a little bit about our sponsors before we head out for today.
Definitely. Before I go into our sponsors, I do have to say that this has been a fantastic episode right now, and I think Joe,
mm-hmm.
Joe, I think we're rubbing off on them a little bit. Did you hear all that? Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, no, it's okay. Oh, yeah, no, you're okay. I'm sorry. Did you hear that between those two?
Yeah.
Oh, they got a little bit of Canadian in them now.
Right.
Yeah. Oh, fantastic, though. But our sponsors, firstly and foremostly, we are the very first sponsored podcast from Collar and Elbow Brand. collarandelbowbrand.com. Go and use our promo code. It's JK Podcast. You're going to get yourself 10% off your entire purchase, whether that's clearance, whether that is brand new stuff, which, oh yeah, they just put out their fall drop. Go and check them out. collarandelbowbrand.com. As well, our newest sponsor at FNXFit.com. You can go and take a look at them as well. If you need nutritional supplements, if you need whey protein, if you need super greens, if you need pre-workout, post-workout, if you need testosterone, they have all of that there for you, including shirts, shorts, anything else that you need as well to rep them. Go and check them out too at FNXFit.com. You want to save some money? Send us a message over on our Facebook page, and I will get you a promo code to save you, I don't know, let's say 15% off. You want to save 15% off? Message us, and I will get you a promo code just for you.
Awesome. And, of course, check out our friends over at IndiePW.com and, of course, over at thechairshot.com, where you always make sure and use your head, guys. All right. We'll see you guys.
Best way for you to use your head as well.
Yes.
If you guys look over there at Big Joe, you see that he is wearing the official Turnbuckle Talk Classic t-shirt. Go to our Shopify. So that's turnbuckle-talk.myshopify.com. Go there. We have a number of different items that are available for you, including the mug that I've been drinking out of this entire show. I have myself a classic shirt as well. It is purple in color. I love it. Purple means royalty. You want to be royal, baby? Go there. Go check out our Shopify. Turnbuckle-talk.myshopify.com.
I noticed the mug. That was pretty swank. I might have to score me one of them.
That was pretty cool. All right, gentlemen, we will see you guys on the next one.
Have a nice day.
You too.
You as well. Thank you.
It's me, it's an honor to be the beat. As you can tell in the background, we are out celebrating. That is what we do here at hittingthemarks.com. And I invite everyone to continue to tune in to Turnbuckle Talk, but check out all our other shows we have. You can find that all at hittingthemarks.com.
Run.